Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Legion 99 podcast, your source for the latest tactics, news, battle reports, hobby talk, and general Legion chatter. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Legion 99. I'm Nick. I am here with Mike Syrylo and Mike Barry. How you doing, guys? Say hi.
Hello.
Hey. Doing pretty well.
I have a picture this time.
You do. Got a fresh new camera? Digging it?
Did you not have a picture last time?
So I came on as a guest last time, and it turns out my webcam may have broken as I was setting it up for that cast. And then I went to go buy a new one, and my Amazon notification told me it was 4 years old. So I guess it's just time.
Keegan put like a little thing that said like Mike Syrylo's face here or something like that for the YouTube. It was pretty funny. Speaking of Keegan, he's not here. Taking a few weeks off. Busy life. But we're here. We're back from Crucible. We were at Crucible last weekend. A couple people here did really well at Crucible. We'll get into that. Talk about some upcoming events, basically PAX, and talk about some meta discussion. Should be fun. Probably a shorter cast too. So there's
be
just
careful. Anytime
we'll
anybody says that, it's never.
It tends to be too. Okay, well that's great. I'm here for a long time. I guess
We've got a few talking points that I'm sure will either be very quiet or very explosive.
Okay. So there's no real news, right? Like I don't think so. Like
I think the news for the next 6 months is just everybody gonna be trying their best to avoid talking about Inquisitors.
Which you did not do when we were streaming with David.
I avoided it. I didn't say the word Inquisitor once.
It's fair. You've already said it twice here, so that's plenty. That's plenty.
We'll say it more. Don't worry.
Oh, do we have to?
No, we don't. We don't. In fact, I don't really want to talk about that.
I'm scared. I'm afraid. It all hurts. But yeah, so we were Crucible last weekend. It was a lot of fun. Shout out to Jordan for doing a great job. He sold like all the tickets, but like so many people didn't show up, so it ended up being it
felt like Invader League.
That sounds personal. I'll leave it alone.
It was an awesome tournament though.
I had a lot of fun. Great group of people there. All the Florida folks are awesome. I played Ewoks.
I'm sorry.
Didn't. Yeah. Well, I mean, they look pretty. I got
They do look pretty good on the table. I
won a speed paint set again. That's 2 tournaments in a row that I've won a speed paint set. Keep them coming. But we'll get into Crucible soon. Upcoming events. We're all excited for PAX Unplugged here, right? Yes. So signups are basically you just need a PAX badge and sign up on Game Uplink. However, we're full. We're at 64 players signed up on Game Uplink. So, but I do anticipate drops beforehand. There always are. I do anticipate people's plans changing over the next like month or so. So if you were planning to come and you just hadn't hit that button yet, just hit it now and sit there. I have a wait list. Reach out to me if that's the case and you're interested in coming. And I'll try and keep people as informed as I can. But I do expect if you still want to sign up that you'll probably be able to play. So also PAX Unplugged is awesome and you should just go anyway.
Yeah, it's in a great part of Philadelphia. So even if you just like city experience, you're in a wonderful walking area of everything.
It's safe there.
Safe-ish.
It was not safe where I stayed last time.
It depends on where Drumline.
Where did you stay last time?
I stayed I think is everything across the river in New Jersey technically?
Yes, everything across the river is the Badlands.
Okay, so I guess the Badlands, is that like actually the word for it?
No, Badlands is a section in Philly though that you do not want to go to.
Okay, so I stayed like right across the bridge. There's like a pod of hotels.
Yep.
And the first night we came back, it was like
that's Camden.
Camden.
Yeah.
The first night we came back, they had cordoned off all of the streets with police officers. And we were really confused because we couldn't get to the hotel. And turns out that's just a thing they do because they don't want people who aren't staying at the hotels to go to the hotels, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, you're not really supposed to stop in Camden at nighttime at red lights. They're just optional.
Gotcha,
Fair.
gotcha.
I
I
Fair.
mean, that was definitely the vibe I got, and I realized why those hotels were A, still available, and B, so cheap when
Yes.
because I booked it like 2 weeks before the event last year. So
Yeah.
I would recommend people booking your hotels early and often, I think.
Oh, I mean, yeah, we're past that. I can tell you from experience because I booked my hotel about a month ago, I think, and it was I didn't get to like pick the hotel I would have liked to have stayed at. So and it's expensive. So, but
It's better than
What do
getting
you-
shot.
better than getting shot.
Hey,
That's if that's the alternative, then you definitely
There's the
The
episode
Philly
title.
venue itself is really
right. Yeah, no, it is
amazing.
not
Really
it is not, yeah. But so a lot of questions too. PAX is 6 Swiss rounds. It is 4 Saturday and 2 Sunday. Why is it 4 Saturday and 2 Sunday? Because the con closes at I think 6 o'clock. Like hard closes at 6 o'clock on Sunday, so we have to be out of there before then. So we can't fit. It's not possible to fit 3 rounds on Sunday, so we got to do the 4th round on Saturday. We're going to be doing basically the con opens at 10. We're going to be starting round 1 at 11. So it's important that if you're going to be running in a little late, please let me know. Please let us know. We don't have a problem accommodating people, giving people an extra few minutes at the end of the first round. And we'll be doing the break, the meal break. We're going to call it a meal break because it's not a lunch break. We're going to be doing the meal break after round 2.
I actually kind of dig that. The convention hall is great, and there actually are some good food options, but they tend to fill up really quickly over lunchtime. So actually just waiting that hour after the lunch hour is going to be just easier for everybody. The lines will be a lot shorter.
Yeah. But it's a World Open qualifier, so 4 invites, flight and hotel for Worlds up for grabs, for the undefeated player at the end. If you have any more questions, there's a player packet, or you can just DM me.
Are you doing a pass down on invites?
Oh yeah. Yep. And I anticipate it. So I anticipate that a lot of people playing are already going to have those invites, and they're looking for the flight and hotel.
Yep.
So I would anticipate that, like, if you're like, hey, I'm a pretty decent player, but like I know I'm not Mike Berry good. You got a really good chance at getting an invite just like based on playing 6 rounds. So do it. It's gonna be great. And I don't anticipate there being any new releases between now and then. So, what we have now is probably what we're playing with. So, which is great. It's good to know. I don't have to answer awkward questions about like, oh, if Inquisitors drop the week of. They're not.
You don't have to
They're not. We know it.
Inquisitions.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. I mean, they could drop a Battle Force at any moment.
They could. They've proven that.
This is true.
They
There's
have
precedent
proven
there.
that to us.
Though we said earlier we didn't really have any news. We did get one piece of news in the last couple of weeks, and it is the rest of the tournaments for the 2023-24 OP season.
Sure.
So that does have the international non-United States events as well on that schedule.
Gotcha. I think
PAX is there as well.
Yeah, I think AMG confirmed that LVO was a qualifier, but we kind of already knew that.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything unexpected there.
Yeah.
I think
if you do want to see the list of places, just head to their new.
PAX never got an official announcement like the rest of the events did.
interesting.
It hurt my feelings a lot.
Was there a season end date to the invite season on that article? The only reason I ask is because somebody slipped that in a Discord that I was in today, and they said something like the season ends January 15th. That might have been somebody making something up. I actually I don't have anything concrete. This is playing telephone.
From what I understand, the season ends at LVO. That's what I was told, is that basically LVO will be the last event giving out invites. That could also mean that they're not going to accept store championship invites after the 15th, but that seems kind of arbitrary. If somebody wanted to run one, just make it hey, LVO is the last one. So it's the end of January. That's it. We're not doing them.
Yeah, I have no
So,
idea where that
I
date
don't-
actually came from.
I don't see an official end date, but LVO is the last one in the US. There is one January 26th to 28th at CanCon,
That's not
which
in the US, though, right?
is I think that's in Australia.
Yeah,
It's in Australia.
they follow their own rules down there.
I mean, it's only 1 week later, but I think that
yeah,
essentially confirms that
right.
I would say the
Mhm.
January is probably the end of the season.
Yeah.
I sure hope so, because like getting an invite in like the middle of February and then trying to figure out how to get like to Adepticon is like, a thing that could happen for somebody. And I don't know. I think that like having like an end date a few months out is good. I think.
Agreed.
Like,
For sure.
gives everybody it also gives like the Adepticon staff like a better idea of what to expect, because like I feel like there's a good chance that this world is even bigger than the last one based on the amount of like invites that were like the store championships that got invites, you know what I mean? Like for example, there was only like one prime championship or RPQ in New Jersey, like period.
Sure.
Like and it was at Top Deck. Like there may have been one up in North Jersey, but like for example, like we gave out 2 invites and we're gearing up to do another one soon, and there's other stores in South Jersey that have given out invites and or are getting ready to. So it's like, go ahead, Mike.
I think there are more invites passed out this season than we've had in years past, but we're also working with a single year versus like 3.
Right.
So while it's a little heavier stocked, I would wager Worlds is the same size.
Fair.
And we didn't even fill it last time. We had to pull like 14 people from the LCQ, which is cool. That's great. Not knocking that. But I find it unlikely we go above 128 again.
It is worth noting that I'm pretty sure that at Adepticon last year, about 50% of people that had invites didn't actually go.
Yeah.
That's a good point too.
But I think
I mean, I personally know like 5 or 6 people that didn't go.
Yeah, some of that I think is that like they got it like 3 years ago and they like had no interest in playing Legion anymore,
Right.
A
lot of that.
So I think the attrition will be far less, but yeah, I think it's really unclear how many invites have actually been handed out at this point.
That's fair too.
Maybe we can ask somebody. I wonder if they actually have that answer.
No, they're not going to have that answer.
Probably not. I know my store is also about to run our second invite tournament.
I saw that.
We're running it in November, so I think you're right in that respect. I think a lot of stores that are capable of doing so are handing out.
Top Deck got 4. They got 4 kits. And like, we're going to be capable of like giving out 2 more, but we're not going to give out both if we don't hit 32. Speaking of Top Deck, November 11th, I still don't have a game uplink because the events manager was on vacation this week. So maybe next week. Mike literally asked me the other day about it. And I'm like, I'm going to go heckle him on Thursday. And I walked in and I'm like, smiles around. He's like, he's on vacation. I'm like, yeah, great. So maybe next week.
I think we may be coming up for that again. I'm not sure yet.
I hope so. I know I talked to Jason and he was planning to come.
When is your tournament in November?
Ours is on the 4th.
Ooh, I can make that.
Yeah.
I cannot because that is a weekend I work. We just talked about that.
Indeed we did.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think like it's entirely possible that like this next Worlds has like a higher quality of players too, because there were a lot of players that didn't bother to go to the LCQ because like it was really ambiguous how many people got to go, and a lot of those players have invites now.
Yeah, and I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but it's probably gonna. There were also a lot of players that had invites. They got invites when it was like a different game.
Yes.
And like
I mean, all of us were in that boat, I think, right?
It was
to be fair, but but like I'm sure that like I'm definitely a better player at this past Worlds than I was 3 years ago when I got that invite before COVID.
Yeah,
that's very fair.
So I think I'm expecting. I mean, I think we can expect every Worlds to kind of progressively, gain in skill as long as the game is gaining ground, which I think probably is. I don't think we have any metrics on that actually, but yeah.
Just sales probably, but like we don't have those exact numbers. They just tell us things, and it's all like, who knows?
I would wager that you could
I think that
put a soft metric on the fact that our larger conventions are continuously getting larger.
Yeah, they're getting bigger. There's
even
more
if it's
of
only
them.
10 to 12 people a year, that's still, it's a net positive, and they're filling, and we're seeing more of them pop up. So I think, there's a lot of people that go to multiple events, so it's very hard to track that for sure, but
right.
the events are filling, and there's more events than there were in the past.
For sure.
A lot more. It's great to see.
Should we move into one of the events that just happened?
Yes, Crucible. So Crucible was at the Universal Doubletree in Orlando, which is right conveniently just a short walk from Universal Studios. Right, Mike? You went.
Yes, it is. I walked that like 6 fucking times.
That's wild, because it's not like I looked at like when like my brother dropped me off at the hotel, and I'm like, well, I don't see City Walk, so I'm not going.
Right.
It
You
was
can't
a solid
see
15
the
minute
far.
walk
It
from
seemed
here,
far.
Right? Yeah.
I'm a quick walker, and it was about a 15-minute walk.
But I'm also a lot bigger and in worse shape than you. So yeah, walking in Florida in September was not appealing to me. It was so humid. The temperature wasn't too bad, but like the humidity was, Florida stinky humidity. So, but inside it was great. The venue was pretty good. I actually was like pretty happy staying at the hotel, and like the actual venue and what they offered. It was nice.
It was actually cold in the room for a lot of it, which was a nice change of pace from a lot of the other conventions. I'd rather have to put on a long sleeve t-shirt than sit there and sweat.
We were sitting at the streaming table like on Saturday, like for game one, and like we all kind of got a little chilly. It was like it was actually like kind of cold in there. But Jordan put on an excellent event. It was a heat based event, so Friday, Saturday, you only got to play in one. We all three played on Friday.
Yes.
Friday had like I think 23 or 24 players, and then Saturday had a lot less, like 16, I think, when they started the day. A lot of drops, a lot of people didn't make it, unfortunately. But I don't think we're gonna go into like individual battle report type things here, because that would be a lot, and we also is like over a week ago now. So but I did bring Bright Tree Village with me.
Yeah,
and,
you did.
I won 2 games, which was
That
my
was your
goal. It was my goal. I hit my goal. My first game I played against one of the locals, and he was playing Anakin Triple Barks. And I was on this pretty sweet table that had this little wall right outside my deployment zone. And I just like, there's like pictures on TLD, but like I literally hid my entire army behind that wall. It was KP, and everything was like a climb and a move over the wall. So like to the KP. So it was like, we're just going to sit here until you either come fight me, or I just outnumber you 12-9, and I'll just like wait. He tried to get his Barks around, and I killed Barks with full commandos and Han and Chewie. And I ended up winning that game. It was a lot of fun. I also, it should be known, I went to Disney Springs the day before with my brother, and I bought an Ewok horn, because they have an Ewok battle horn in the Disney stores that sell Star Wars stuff. And we walking through them, and I was like, yes, I need that, please. That was the best $14 I ever spent. Every single time I charged an Ewok, all day on Friday, I blew the horn, and did not sound like a battle horn. It sounded like a large kazoo, basically. But it was entertaining. I had a blast the whole weekend. Round 2, I played Steven Sylvia. I played him earlier in the year when I went to Tampa for a local tournament that Jordan was hosting. This time around, he bested me with his Callus Boba Fett, 6 T-21 Stormtrooper specialists, and an IRG with Protector. Basically, every single time one of his T-21 shot me, it was like 4 or 5 crits, and Ewoks just died. So I think we played into like round 3, and I couldn't kill Boba Fett. I shot Boba Fett with like 5 units, and he made 15 of 16 saves or something like that. It was gross. Yeah, it felt bad. So I I said, hey, I'm just gonna run 3PO this way so that you can't table me. And he's like, that's fine. So we called it. And then game 3, I went against a double Dark Trooper Gav list, and I somehow won. It was pretty wild. Ewoks charging into Dark Troopers is funny. Getting like 1 wound here and there, it was pretty funny. I ended up winning because we played Recover, and Han's change of plans is really, really good. Being able to not allow the Dark Trooper to teleport to my boxes turn 2 meant that my Ewoks were able to just kind of like chase down his Dark Troopers while my commandos shot at his troopers that never picked up any of his boxes. So I ended up winning the game. I killed all of his troopers except for the Dark Troopers, and I killed everything except the Dark Troopers in the tank. And he never got anything to pick up his boxes. So I ended up winning, I think, like 3-1. The Gav being able to teleport Dark Troopers is an awful dirty trick, and I hate it.
I mean,
it's a
lot of points.
It is a lot of points. I'm not saying it's like I'm sorry. I'm not saying it's like broken or busted. It's just like, if you haven't seen it before, and like I hadn't actually seen it before, but I understood like in theory what it was trying to do. It was like, huh. It's like, yeah, it's like now that Dark Trooper's on the center box turn 1, and he's gonna grab it, and then the other Dark Trooper's gonna like go in and teleport somewhere. It's neat. It's neat.
This game's fun.
That's why you play Asajj.
I didn't play Asajj, but that was my weekend. I went in with I painted up I got like my real invite at Nova. So I went into this with like, I'm just going to have fun. And I had about 3 weeks to prepare. So I ended up painting up some like fresh commandos and Han and Leia to like better match my Ewoks. And like, because also those models are like 6 years old. So 6 years of playing with models that I painted that long ago, they look like crap. So like I went in trying to go for best painted, and I won best painted on the day. I did not win best overall painted. So, but pretty great result. I was happy. I had a lot of fun. Ewoks.
You mentioned that this was the first time you played Chewie on foot in the Ewok list.
Yes.
How did it go? Because we saw that
pretty good.
Saw that with Han do pretty well at the French Open.
Yeah, like the ATST has the problem where like it just dies once it like starts attacking or something gets range 1 of it. Chewie's able to like, guardian and use protector, and his gun is still really good. Teamwork with Han is excellent. Like it's a lot more flexible. I liked it a lot more.
Did the order control hurt at all? Because I know that was one of the big things
that was one of my concerns. No, having C's was great. I forgot to use it in one of the games, but I didn't need it. So, but like having C's helped. Like you can get orders on Chewie once in a while, with Han's cards or with Leia's cards. So, and I only took 2 Bright Tree cards. I took Arboreal Assault and For the Tribe, the 3-pip that gets Dauntless and Relentless. Otherwise, I took like Leia and Han cards. So it was good. A lot of flexibility. Also, like I had Underworld connections on both Han and Leia so that they could like have complete like flexibility with all of their orders. And that like, when people saw that, it was like, oh, I guess I need to be aware that like he can kind of do whatever he wants with his command cards a little bit. Like where, it's a lot, like 10 points is a lot for that essentially for just a couple orders, but
reckless diversion on an Ewok
it's funny
if you can put it in the right location on the board. Is crazy powerful.
Yeah, because you just put like they can only see the leader, and then you just hide everything else, and it's like you have to shoot it 7 times before it dies essentially.
Or I think it generally means your opponent's just not going to shoot that turn.
Correct.
Yeah, which is a win.
Yep. But I had a great time.
I got pretty lucky. I ended up going 2-1 on Friday, and then started to drink, and then the player that beat me round 3 ended up dropping because he couldn't play Sunday, so I got to play in the shadow round in the 4th round. And I actually got to play an Ewok list on stream, which was a fun time. I haven't been on stream in like 3 years, so I had a little bit of nerves there. But he played the Chewy ATST version, and unfortunately, the comment that you made about as soon as the ST shoots, it's in trouble. It took me like 4 activations to kill it.
Yeah, that's
So
happened.
it dropped pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But I played Asajj Triple Magna, which was a little bit of a meta call because I kept losing to Blizzard Force over the past 2 months with the new Commander Vader rules with Cad Bane. And I couldn't suppress the core. I couldn't suppress the core because he just compels them, and I couldn't kill Commander Vader because he's in extra health and has 2 medbots. So I decided to swap Cad for Asajj, and it actually ended up working pretty well. She killed like 3 Jedi and a Dark Trooper across the weekend.
Nice.
So I was pretty happy with that. I played against the Maul Pike spam round 1. One of the local Florida guys. He's a great player. But it was the 6 capo disruptor list with Maul and 2 more capos.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And playing a droid gun line, it was not the thing that I wanted to start my event with.
Nope.
Because I didn't kill a model till like turn 5.
Yeah, your range 4 critical poke is real bad against that list.
It is useless against that list.
Yeah.
Like flat out. So we played some KP, and I was able to kill Maul on turn 5 with Asajj, and then swarm the middle because I had more activations, and kill a capo at the Magna. So it was a pretty good game. Game 2, I played double Dark Trooper Vader, which was actually kind of wild. We ended up playing Intercept, which didn't feel the worst, but we also played Rapid Reinforcements.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. So I had the choice of either playing KP Limited or Rapid Reinforcements Intercept. And I figured at least with Rapid, I can shoot with the Magna.
Yeah.
So it ended up being okay. He did what you expected him to do with the Dark Troopers.
Yeah.
But I just threw 3 Magna and Asajj straight towards them and was able to win the attrition fight there because I could kind of poke on the way in.
Yeah, it almost feels like you probably want to keep your Magnas out of melee in that situation.
Yes, I kept him range 2 because you get the impact 2 from the RPS.
Yeah.
Tell you what, though, it almost backfired because
Really?
the Dark Troopers shoot way harder than they do. And if I'm just going to be crit fishing then they punch. And if I'm just going to be crit fishing for most of it outside of the impact 2, I actually think it would have been safer in melee. So I want to play a test game and see how that goes at some point.
I don't know. I think their melee pool is good enough that probably doesn't matter. Like I think I think whether you're taking the shot or the melee, the melee might be a little bit worse, but you're also trading that for your impact and like
the problem was with the retinue aim from Commander Vader. It was very common that I was taking 8 to 9 saves on the Magna, and that just wouldn't happen in melee.
That's fair.
But it'll be worth a test at some point because I'm sure we'll see more Dark Troopers if Yoda becomes a thing, and I think Yoda will become a thing, or is a thing. We'll see. Game 3, I got to play against the new Wookiee Battle Force with the Flutters and the Yoda.
Did you play? Was it the really pretty Flutters? Like
yes,
the one oh man, the one
with
guy's
the trees on their
Flutters
bases.
were
They're beautiful.
They were crazy.
Nuts.
Arguably,
awesome.
the Wookiees looked better, which is crazy because those Flutters were insane. But if you looked at those little Wookiee models, the detail that was in the battle shields and in the grass on the base was insane.
Jordan had a rule for painting that he wasn't you weren't considered if you didn't paint it yourself. If that guy had just not said anything that he used a commission painter, there's zero chance I would have won. There's zero chance. I looked at that Flutter and I'm like, yeah, there's zero chance I'm winning this painting competition. And he's like, oh, I used a commission painter. And we were like, oh, I mean, they look really, really good.
Yeah, they did.
I almost got tabled that game. I got a little unlucky with the Magna dice against the Wookiees, and everything kind of steamrolled from round 2. And I was just running B1s away with the boxes on recover so that I didn't get tabled. So that was a little rough. But I ended up losing that one, got through on the drop, won the 4th game, and then got to sneak into day 2 and get my invite. Because I did not leave myself much room for error for Adepticon. I left myself 2 tournaments, and they were both major cons.
Yeah.
I did get to play against Liam for the first time, Goodface, one of Florida's shining lights. He was playing a Commander Luke list. He was really good.
Yeah, I hear he's good. Not as good as us up here, but that's fine.
Hey man,
You said that, not me.
Winter is coming, Northman.
That was pretty fun though. After I won that game, I walked over to watch the end of yours, Mike, as you were wrapping up. So we did our For the North chant.
Yeah.
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 But
Yeah.
then I ended up making it to the final to get smoked by Mike.
I think I yelled the North remembers based on the fact that like I still like they came into ACO 2 years ago and it was Liam and Austin in the final, and they had beat like Bushman, Orc, Evan, like they just ran through the Northmen. And I was like, oh, if Mike wins, I'm just gonna troll. But like, yeah, it was great.
I didn't realize it was the exact same too.
It was,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay.
We had to put him down.
Yeah.
We had to put him down. I love it.
But no, it was a fun tournament. I think Asajj was a really good meta call with all the Jedi and such, like I mentioned. Magna, they do their job.
They're so good.
But my God, B1s are dog shit. They're so bad. They just don't do anything anymore. They die too quickly, and their critical poke just is not enough.
I mean, Ewoks are worse. If that makes you feel better.
I mean, I actually think if you take like 5 or 6 of the range 4 guns, they're not the worst core unit.
You can overwhelm. That's
For sure.
It's expensive, like
Yeah.
money wise.
The issue
Like,
is that
yeah,
like once
you
you're
have to buy
moving
it.
into like the range 3 gunfight, you lose all advantage you had.
Yeah.
Um,
The other thing that makes it tough is that if you bring, we'll say 4 to 5 of the E5S, you lose the ability to bring a lot of the things that CIS has that are good against the meta at the moment. You have to cut down the 2 Magna, or if you want to bring a focus piece, you're looking at almost 9 activations, and it's just not a good place to be. It really relies on those crits forcing blanks on the other side on that first 2 rounds, and that doesn't happen a lot these days with all the defensive tech that's out there. There's a lot of SA, there's a lot of like surge sharing, there's barrier.
That's very fair.
It's definitely not. I guess I should be clear. B1s are dog shit, but you can still make a list with them. Just don't expect them to work past like B tier.
They're not gonna be very effective against the S tier lists in the meta
Correct.
right now. I think,
or even
really
the A tier lists, quite honestly.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that just don't care.
Yeah. Like if I forced a fight with those pikes in game 1, I'm gonna get obliterated. I just hid for 4 turns and then poked out.
Yeah. I mean, situational awareness. Like it's good that it costs 4 points instead of 2, because at 2 it was kind of crazy. But like even like Austin's list that he was running had situational on like the meaningful units. Like that's definitely not a matchup you want to run into with your B1s or Magna card. Like you have to close to melee basically to start dealing damage, right?
And to close to melee, I have to sit in that 2 to 3 bubble for a turn.
Right.
And that's where the army just falls apart.
Yeah.
But it was a good learning experience. To paraphrase you and a number of other players that I talked to, I need to stop handicapping myself. So I'm going to stop. And I'm going to go back to Gar because I played it for 3 months before I decided to scratch my droid's itch.
Great. I look
ready for our test games, Nick. You're gonna have a blast.
Yeah,
gonna be great, guys.
Yeah, I mean, like, no, I am. I'm excited because like Gar's really good, and like the more practice I get against it, the better.
It's true.
Yeah, I gotta decide what I might play for Worlds. I have no idea. I'm not sure anything in Rebels is going to cut the mustard, so to speak. But we'll see.
I have thoughts about that. I think Rebels still has some. Rebels, I think, are in a better place than Separatists.
Agreed.
For whatever that's worth.
Probably.
And by what I think is a substantial margin. Just due to their like unit sizes and their range advantage. Cassian is a one-man army to some extent.
Yeah, and I think if we're talking about like the Ahsoka Cassian FD concepts, different versions of that, but if that's the skeleton we're working off of, that's also a lot less table dependent than a lot of the CIS lists. If it's a wide open table, you got to be careful with your core, but a wide open table means Cassian and the FDs are going to feast.
Yep.
And they're going to feast from a range that the Separatists can't fight back from.
Yep. Yeah, and I really like Ahsoka as that second operative to K2. She's
good.
So flexible, so good.
Yeah, I do think that there's probably room there. Like I think like Cassian and FDs are definitely the basis of any good rebel list right now. I think what you can put in that Ahsoka slot can vary.
Sure.
I'm not even sure it has to be a Jedi.
So what would, like, other than like Boba Fett, what are you like considering there in that second operative? Because like I feel like Sabine and Din both are like they need points help, I think.
I don't know. I mean, I could see a very like scrappy like Sabine Clan Ren, like cut the dark saber and
right.
And just like kind of go in on like units that can operate. Like I don't think you take more than that as far as Mandos go, because I honestly don't think the regular Rebel Mandos are very good. But I do think Clan Ren is quite excellent as long as you've got situational on them. And I think, you know, between like you've got Cassian and your FDs to punish, to kind of force your opponent into an engagement with your close range units, and then you can kind of like use Sabine and the Mandos to kind of navigate whatever situation you create with that. I don't know if it's better, but I do think that I think there's play there for sure.
They just need to let me take 3 operatives and 1 commander, I think.
Oh, that would help a lot as well, but I don't see that changing in the next couple months.
I want that. That's what I want.
I don't disagree with the idea of the Sabine Mandos. The only downside is that you probably still need to at least consider the Darksaber for the Dauntless factor.
Yeah, for sure.
Not even for the attack, but she's only Courage
right.
too.
Dauntless is
there's a lot of
good.
suppressive guns these days. There's still the Blizzard cards, there's the FDs. She can get poked a lot quicker than she used to.
Totally.
And that's going to be a little table dependent, but there's probably some play there.
Yeah, the Darksaber definitely costs too much on her for sure. That's really the only reason I'm suggesting you cut it at all, to be honest.
Is it still 15?
I think so. It's
insane.
I think she's like 140 with the Darksaber.
It's insane. Right? She's like, yeah, she is 140 with the Darksaber. It's insane.
And you have to take situational on her. Like that's not really.
I think SA is stapled to her, and then it's unfortunate because like there are so many characters that would just love to have that second training that a few characters do have. Like she would love to be able to take up close and personal to generate a name, and then SA to back it up. But if you're not taking Darksaber, you also have to take Grapple Line, I think, especially if you don't.
100%. I think Grapple Line Sabine is not played enough at all.
I think it would be played more if she wasn't 149 at that point.
Yeah. I think you got to cut the Darksaber because it's I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting point. And then if you're looking at that price point, I mean, maybe there's a Din play. Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it depends on what the rest of the meta shakes out to be.
For sure. I definitely think if Crucible has taught us anything, Luke Skywalker is still in the conversation. Even though like people are like really down on him. I don't know why. Commander Luke is still a good piece. Like and by good I mean like C. Like, he's fine. You can take him and win games. Like
he's not going to lose you a game, but he's probably not going to win it for you without making the play that needs to be made.
Yeah.
He can't carry as easily.
Absolutely.
I would just rather have Ahsoka for a few more points. That's like where I sit. Like, I guess it's like 155 versus 165.
Why not both?
I've tried it. It's fun. The pieces around it are awkward. Yeah. You can't really fit Cassian, and like if you can do like Cassian K2, Luke Ahsoka, but everything else is just like 3 rebel troopers, 3 strike teams. There are like 2 strike teams even. It's like real thin. But yeah, I mean, also Ed's list was wild.
Yeah, for those who do not know, he was playing an operative Luke, R2, Essentially,
Yeah.
double gunless land speeder and 3 full commando list.
Yo, full commandos hit really hard.
While they have
Protecting them
There you go.
is difficult. And there was a but. It was coming. Protecting them is very difficult. Like when people ignored them in my games with Bright Tree, like when people don't like try to kill the commandos, they often lose because if they get to range 3, like I one shot in my game 3, I one shot a stormtrooper squad. Like I just straight up one shot them.
One
So,
shotting things was fun, man.
it is. We
I
don't get
wouldn't
to
know.
do it often in Rebels unless we have a lightsaber, but yeah, I don't play ARC troopers. That's my problem. It is my problem.
Come to the
Alright.
dark side. We have ARC troopers.
I hear they're good.
I have a couple nicely painted ones I'm staring at right now.
There you go.
I'll just live vicariously through you, Mike.
Go for it. I will continue to play them.
It's not off the table.
Yeah.
I have Republic stuff. It's painted. My phase ones look so bad, but it's fine.
I have a hard time believing any of your stuff looks bad, Nick.
I know, but it's like, well, it's like what? It's like they look bad compared to like my phase 2s and my ARC troopers that look like, because like that was when like I wasn't airbrushing when I painted my phase 1s, and I was airbrushing when I painted phase 2s and ARC troopers. So it's like they look considerably like the armor color is like completely different. Like if you look at the phase 1s by themselves, like yeah, they look like, oh, they're phase 1s white armor, but then you look at them next to the phase 2s, you're like, oh, they look worse.
It's white
like,
versus bone white.
Yeah, it's just yeah. But at one point I was like, I'm gonna strip them and repaint them, and that is a mistake. Stripping those soft plastic models is a chore and a half. No, never again.
So we've mentioned a few times like the meta and what we think pieces work around. I guess the point that we probably could make is, what is the meta right now? And
I think it's,
do we actually have one?
yeah, I think it's still shaking out a little bit. Yeah, I think to me the rebel lists are obviously like FDs and Cassian plus
Right.
Ahsoka probably. I think CIS, if you're not playing Magnas, you're probably doing it wrong.
100%.
And I think those are like what I would consider probably like, I think CIS is probably sitting in like the C to D tier. I think the rebel lists are somewhere between like B- to an A- situation. And then you've got Empire and Republic. And I think until like a month ago, I thought Empire was like significantly far ahead.
I think it's Republic.
Yeah, it's possible. I'm not gonna like sound the battle horns and say Republic is at the top of the heap, but
because it would sound biased.
It would sound biased, and I do that anyways most of the time.
Yeah.
But I do think like Blizz is still really good.
It has to be. It's no longer like you can just pick this up and do well. You actually have to be like a competent player or like a good player to do really well with it.
Yeah.
Like, so like credit where credit's due. Like I'm only really scared of Blizzard Force now if like I know the player is like a good player. Like it's no longer just like, oh, this feels bad.
I will say like the new like Yoda line list I've been playing rips it apart. It's not super close.
So what did you play at Crucible then?
Yeah, so I played Yoda, Padme, double ARC Trooper, phase 2 mortar, 2 phase 1 Z6s, and a Echo Strike team. It's really good.
If you want to see it in action, you can check out Yavin Base's stream of day 3 in the final game.
Yep.
Yeah. It is a really good list. I've been thinking about it a lot over the past like week, and I've only really felt this way about one other list, and I think this one is better. And the list that it makes me that it like feels similar is not a list anybody else wants to hear the name of, because it starts with Rex and ends in star.
It did kind of feel like playing against a version of Rexstar, because you knew that the giant 6 aim shots were coming and you knew that you couldn't stop them. You just had to hope that you saved out of it.
Yeah.
Obviously the way that it sets up for that is very different, and where it comes from is different, but that concept felt a little bit like a flashback.
That was how the weekend felt to me too, to be honest with you.
He was like, it's back. It's back, everybody.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think maybe more importantly, it had a lot of play beyond. Like Rexstar kind of had like the one trick, right? It
just killed everything.
It just
everything
shot you off the table
all the time. A list like yours is a lot more flexible to, you can flex into like playing for objectives and things like that if you're being outgunned. Things like that.
It's also significantly more defensive when it needs to be. Like 4 out of the 6 command cards put multiple shared dodges on the table before the turn starts, and one of them is repeatable. And you're playing it multiple times a game. And they also do other things. So yeah, I mean, I've seen like a lot of people being like, oh man, like the Yoda line is like the new big bad beast in the room. I'm not sure that that's true. And also like I don't know, I'm feeling a certain type of way about like people like, oh, Mike played a list, now it's like the like pillar of the meta thing, but I do think it's very good, and I've been sparring one-on-one against Josh Grimmer, who won Nova with Blizzard, and he's very frustrated playing into that Yoda list right now. And he would tell you the same thing. But I also think like the Rebel FD Cassian list might actually have some serious play into it. I haven't really played a ton of that matchup, but it does struggle a little bit with dealing with things that can overwhelm it past like range 3, and like Mike, I know that our game felt like pretty one-sided, but like the critical force spam, you were kind of like jamming into me, and you didn't have that much of it. Like you were dealing damage with
it. And that's we kind of talked about it on the post game of it. I didn't not have plays, and I was forcing saves, and I chewed through the barrier, I chewed through the dodges, I made you actually roll dice. There are ways to combat it.
Yeah.
And I didn't even have a very optimized version of that.
Yeah, like if in our matchup, like you had like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 more range 4 guns with critical, and then like I think that the game could have gone very differently. I'm not sure that like the issue that I think this new list presents to the meta, if we're like kind of circling back to that conversation, is like you kind of can't step into range 3 of the list without just losing a unit instantly.
And I hate to keep harkening back to a single example, but that's kind of what happened, is that when we jousted for the first 2 turns, like I was pretty even, but as soon as we realized that for intercept, the entire thing was range 3 from like, I'll say large blocker to large blocker, and I had to commit, that's where you can kind of see the fold, because that's where that list can really shine, the S+ version.
For sure. And I think one of the things that I started doing like this weekend was pretty much just jamming the list into the middle of the table as early as possible, and just like setting up the zone. Like I'm already here. I don't have to move off the middle objective or move to it. I'm already here. You're gonna have to play into Luminous Beings, figure it out. Right. And it presents a real challenge in that respect, because you feel like you don't want to like walk into it early, and that's something that I think perhaps most importantly the Anakin lists cannot do in the same way that the Yoda lists can.
Correct.
Which is frightening.
And if we're going to talk about that, continuing to circle back to the meta discussion, arguably one of the reasons that Gar feels a lot further ahead to some players than Empire is that the Empire lists are not very settled at the moment.
I agree.
Empire's been hit by a lot of nerfs in the last 4 months at this point, 5 months.
Yep.
And we're still kind of shaking out like what's consistently good. And every time you go to a tournament, you see a different Empire list, and the sample size of matchups that we're getting against different Republic CIS lists are very small, and there's snap decisions. And one of the things that I think will probably come back if we continue to see more people go towards Gar is Josh Devera of Peregrine was playing an Iden Boba, essentially like triple sniper, high velocity spam list. And like that's got enough to make you roll dice. Like you can probably crack a Yoda list with that. You still have barrier, but Iden is going to force the barrier to flip every single time she shoots.
Absolutely.
So
and Inferno Squad's gonna get in there too, right?
Yep. And then we haven't even talked about the snipers and or Boba/88 yet, because you'll probably have one of those. So like you've got ways to punch damage through with that list, and you'll force the saves to be the deciding factor in a sense. So we might see more of that come back in if we see a lot of Anakin, if we see a lot of Yoda.
Yeah.
And even that list can chip a Dark Trooper list. It's going to struggle against the full 2, but you can chip down to single Dark pretty quickly with that spam.
I think to me, like the snipers and the FDs, and like the Inferno Squads, and it kind of presents a game where you're like taking all these like range 5 threats, which is great in those matchups. But I think it opens the door for a lot of like Magna spam. Like Magnas are gonna walk over those lists once they.
I love seeing them.
So and I think all of a sudden, like if this Kashyyyk battle force is as good as it looks on paper, we've seen some like decent results with it at what was it, GSG? I think Hobb was playing it, and I think he was either in the finals or the semis. Like that list doesn't care about snipers. Like you want to do a wound to me? That's cool. Right?
Yes, I get to move now.
Yeah. And I think the issue with the snipers as far as the meta is concerned is that it's a very rock paper scissors answer to the Republic problem. And I think it has some serious deficiencies into other things. That sometimes you just don't run into what you're trying to counter, right? That those lists are counter picks.
Yeah. Yep.
They're not as good at playing the table as other lists are.
They're also a little bit of table dependent. If you get a super dense table and you're trying to set up sniper lines, like good game.
Yeah.
If I have that 6-inch middle blocker, you're just never gonna get to shoot.
Agreed.
So yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. That's kind of like those are the things that are like my take on the meta. I think like we've got Blizz. I also think that there's like the Luke Cook like 12 activation. Mike, I know you like worked on that list with him. Like that kind of scares me playing 8-act Yoda, to be honest.
It
like,
hasn't
I'm
gotten
not in love
anywhere.
When
with it.
something gets to go 4 times after you have to be really careful.
And it's all high velocity or like pierce, surge, crit sort of situations. Like I think the thing is, like, if you like get in there with like a Boba and like take a like range 3 shot at the end of a turn, like you better hope I don't get a hold of you on the flipping over to the start of the next turn.
I need to win the whipcord roll off.
Yes. Right. Because if you don't, you're really screwed.
Yeah.
But
no, like the only thing that we were scared of, and I'll just say we, because I know we were the only 2 people that brought it to Worlds.
Yes, 100%.
The only thing we were actually scared of was the Dark Trooper matchup, because we really just rely on crits. The only impact that we have there is Boba Fett, so we have to just crit down the Dark Troopers. But we're pretty comfortable against Jedi. We're comfortable against other vehicles, white save armor. It just throws a belligerent amount of consistent dice, and it doesn't care when anything goes other than Boba, and Boba always has an order.
Yeah, I do think for that list, and like it has issues against dark troopers potentially. I think to me the most like unsolved thing about the meta is where armor is going to land, and where like our dark trooper is going to be a thing that is good. Is Tempest Force double or triple ATST a thing that you're going to have to account for? Like in this latest tournament, I threw out all my RPSs and like I'm taking better weapons. And I got a lot of flack for that on the Discord the other day, and I was like, look, I don't know, it was a meta call, like,
Yeah.
and it played out. I played against one ATST and I vaporized it still. Like I just like I think as far as the meta shakes out, like if those things are being taken, and right now they are not, it like vastly determines what lists can be taken.
I don't expect it to land strongly. I do think you'll still see those rogue lists, that have the couple ATSTs and Tempest Force. But even the new Wookiee Battle Force hits armor real hard. Armor tends not to have enough dice to chew through the Wookiees if they're going to be in cover. There are ways to run the Fluttercraft and Bowcasters on the Wookiees, so you're looking at impact and pierce whenever they shoot, plus whatever crits come through. I don't know. There's still the Magnus spam because there are going to be people that run it, because whenever you see a droid list, you're going to see 2 to 3 of them. I just don't think that armor is going to land in a consistent place again. You might still see the bust Black Sun idea, but you can kill a bust. It's only 8 health. It's not going to be meta defining.
You don't bring it and expect it to survive, but yeah. Dark Trooper's still the big scary armor thing, I think.
I think so too. I still think they're probably pretty good.
Oh yeah, they are. They are. I think like a lot of people just got scared off when they went up in points because they did get quite expensive.
Yeah.
And being able like can't guardian them anymore, so no more cheese. Yeah, I don't know. I think like originally with like thinking about like starting to take FDs seriously, like I started looking at FDs pretty seriously. I guess about a year ago. It was around PAX time, and knowing like, or I guess no, it would have been after PAX, probably before Gold Sprue, right? Yeah, because I took one to Gold Sprue.
You did.
We knew Dark Troopers were coming, and they were full armor, and that was terrifying. And it was like, well, this thing has impact, and they are not ever going to get covered. So, but it turns out FDs are pretty good against a lot of stuff because you get to throw a lot of dice at range 5, which not a lot of things do. So,
the silhouette change really helped the FD as well, because now that it can shoot from any part of that silhouette, it's very hard to hide.
Yeah, it's a big base. They sometimes finding a good place to put them is more than one is challenging. Sometimes placing that second one is tedious. I know.
So I do have a question, because like I don't play a lot of Rebels. I don't play a lot of anything that's not Republic, honestly. But like the 3 key pieces right now to Rebels are the FD turret, Cassian, and by extension K2 and Ahsoka. Which of those 3, like if you had to pick one of those 3 pillars, is like which is it? Is it Cassian?
It's Cassian.
It's Cassian.
Cassian's always consistently good into like everything. Like just because like you can, if you have another commander, you can infiltrate him, so you can put him anywhere you want, any like on top of any piece of terrain. Infinite range sniper with high velocity. He has a red die. Like Iden doesn't have a red die on her sniper. She has 2 black dice.
Yeah,
so Cassian
significantly worse.
He almost always gets a hit. Iden occasionally with 1 aim has to just like re-roll just to hope for a crit. Cassian almost always gets a single crit with an aim, and then K2 just gets to charge him up. And then as you need him later in the game, I think it's like a lot of it also is like he unlocks K2. Like you get to take K2 because you took Cassian, and K2 is amazing. Like if you could take him in any Rebel list, he would probably be busted. That's just like, facts. But and then like he's only 90 points with the gun. He's absurdly cheap for what he brings. And like you can even with just Cassian, if you don't want to take K2, you can trade pretty easily with just Cassian, just aiming and shooting all game. Like getting, You can't block the crit. You can't dodge the crit. You know, barrier can take care of it, but then your barrier is gone for the round. But yeah, I think Cassian's the one thing that like you probably have to bring, like always and forever.
And you mentioned that it unlocks K2, and one of the things that I think we're starting to see now that players are solving the new rules and we're seeing list building hit 800 is ties are a legitimate factor in Legion these days.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't just say that from Crucible, but we talk about a couple of the later events and even some things with Invader. There were players asking like, hey, what happens when we tie in a one-off game? Because both of our lists are set up to play the long game.
Yep.
And K2 kind of lets you break that because Incognito is disgustingly strong.
So yeah, at Crucible, wasn't it Liam was playing Alpaz and
Yes.
they were basically playing Recover, and it was like whoever went for the box first probably lost, but Liam had K2, so it changes everything.
The very last action of the game was a move claimed by K2 who was still Incognito.
Yep.
Because there's no way to break it. And I think that's why Cassian is also just like you mentioned, he's 90 points of just I'm going to shoot and kill anything.
Yep.
And then you just get your ability to break rules of the game. And that's what Yoda does well. He breaks rules with free movement. He breaks rules with positioning. K2 breaks rules with how you score. It's kind of like, in a different sense, it's why R2 is so good with Secret Mission back in the day, you know, when he was priced accordingly. Any way that you have to fundamentally alter the way that the game functions is what you should be taking. And that's what K2 does better than any other unit Rebels.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair. You definitely Incognito is a very strong keyword. It's certainly much better on him than it is on the that ATSD.
Woof. Man,
I think that's a points factor just because you can't not use a quarter of your army.
K2 is arguably eighth. K2 can be harder to kill than the ATSD though, because that is just a white save. K2 is a red save. I like he also has armor 1, so like those smaller dice pools, like, you know, but it's easier to sneak K2 around the board and like decide when you want to break Incognito, and like the ATST it's a little different, and if you make like a poor decision you can just like lose it very quickly.
Right. Well, and K2 does things while he's Incognito. He charges up Cassian. You can also just I'm blanking on what it's called. You can calculate odds on things that are not Cassian too.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. If you have a vet that you know is just going to sit there and aim, shoot, and obliterate another
just
unit,
give them
why
the
not
aim
just give
and
them another
dodge?
aim?
The problem with like doing that with a vet is the one,
you get a suppression.
one suppression. Yeah.
Man, are you saying that you guys don't have units where you can just like quick thinking on yourself and everybody gets those tokens?
Well, see, I do now because it's packed in my bag. Don't worry. Yeah.
Who wants to choose? I don't. Yeah, no, I mean, I think you make a really good point about those two units kind of breaking the kind of mold of the game. And I think specifically in the tiebreaker scenarios, I don't have an issue with draws personally, at least in a format where it's Swiss and players understand the ramifications of drawing. I think the issue that we are running into is that in the elimination formats, it's not clear what should happen in a draw scenario, or how to evaluate what should happen. Maybe is a better term to that.
Right. We don't have anything in the tournament guidelines that says when it's a one-off elimination game, what happens in a draw.
Yeah.
And I think we could very easily solve that. It could be something as simple as who had the higher SOS in Swiss. Who had more wins in Swiss. You could just work it down the way that we do it for tiebreakers now for deciding cuts. That would be fine. And then if AMG wants the ability of draws to be in the game, we can keep it there with no problems. You know, when you step to the table, one of the players will be aware that they need to make a play. And if they don't, then they're out. You know, it needs to be public common knowledge, and we don't have that common knowledge at the moment. It's just decided tournament to tournament.
Yeah, I will say, like, before, obviously draws were determined by who was blue player, which was a big deal. I think in more ways than one. It obviously set the tone for the game, but now I think In my experience, it is vastly more advantageous to be red player at the moment. Like vastly. I'm not even sure it's like super close. Because as red player, you just set the terms for the engagement now. And you're winning on ties.
Mm-hmm.
Generally. Because you're not up on the bid.
I'm usually pretty comfortable being red player, and I often am because I don't like to bid a lot.
Yeah.
And when you're saying red player, it's funny. We didn't even share the notepad, but my notepad right after the thing that says ties says 800 points or bust ? And I think that kind of is that way for red player because 799 is arguably actively bad right now.
It 100% is. If you're gonna bid to be blue, like bid to be blue. Like if you feel like you have to be blue, like
you need to bid, and if you don't want to bid, find a way not to take any bid.
Yes, like you need to be at 800.
Yeah,
we need 1 point upgrades in this game. Let's go.
I actually think it's important that there are not. To be honest,
yep. Otherwise, it's too easy.
It's too easy. It actually makes you make choices in list building that are at least sort of interesting.
I agree with you. 100%.
Yeah, smoke grenades versus recon intel is a decision you have to make, and do you just cut something else to add a different upgrade? Like that's an actual thought process.
Yeah. Like I've been toying with like different versions of the Yoda list, and I'm like, sliding in upgrades. I'm like, oh, I can't do this. This leaves me at 799. Like that's not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. I do never want to go into a game being like proverbial old red player. Like that does not sound like a good time to me.
Is that healthy?
I don't know. I haven't decided yet. From a list building perspective, it certainly is. From an actual gameplay standpoint, I don't know.
TBD.
Yeah.
We don't have enough data yet.
It's one of those things that I think we've got to feel out as the meta continues to shake out. I could easily see just making blue player win ties again.
I think red player has too many advantages now, like that compared to like what they had before.
The only 2 times that I chose blue player, I thought I threw the game because I chose blue player. And it was actually both of the top cut games. I did not want to play against recover against Liam because I just thought I was going to lose the same way that Alpaz did with K2 getting that box. So I took blue, figuring, it's fine. And then he took the board edge and I was like, shit, I made a mistake.
Well, and in that situation, as red, you can just make sure you don't play recover, right?
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, yes.
Yeah.
The only thing is droids suffer a little bit from conditions. Like Limviz is actively bad for me. Hemmed in is actively bad for me. And it is very hard to balance an objective as well as keeping both of those away. And it's one of the reasons I need to stop playing droids. You can ban and control 2 categories just fine. As soon as you add that third, it is so much more variance based on the flop.
Yeah.
And then in our game as well, I didn't want to play hostage. So I took blue player to eliminate your battle deck. And then you took that board edge and I was like, well, this was a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, the board edge was definitely the most important thing in our game for sure. And it just like, the issue is that like with blue, you get your battle deck, but you don't get a ton of control over it. A lot of the also like meta lists that are kind of like coming into being are like also kind of don't care about objectives. Like if Yoda becomes a thing, he kind of doesn't care what objective you play for the most part.
Yeah, he can kind of play all of them.
He can play all of them like pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Like bombing run, breakthrough, let's do it. I don't know.
It's hard to like completely kill anything in your list. Like it's very hard.
That, and I mentioned earlier the mold breaking. Yoda moves anything. So bombing run, all of a sudden you just move your ARC trooper, and now I can claim the bomb that you just dropped. And now that you can pass, like you're at a 9 activation all the time. You can't hold every bomb until an 11th drop.
No. You very
Plus,
much
you
can't.
have to survive to get there,
which is
tough to do, as I've discovered.
It's like it's a big deal, and No, I think Yoda specifically, he's like, if Jedi are like quarterbacks, he's Tom Brady, like he's telling people where to go, he's doing the things. He might not be the most athletic dude at the table, but but he truly, I think, the only unit in the game that might be like an actual battlefield commander, like, and feels that way in that list specifically. You're not using him as a Jedi. You're using him as like, you go over there, you go do this, you do that, and it's more efficient than him being a Jedi almost.
Oh yeah.
You could not give him a lightsaber weapon and he would still be fine in your setup.
I talk about this a lot. Like, I often don't swing my lightsaber in Anakin games. I can count on one hand the amount of times I swung Yoda's lightsaber over the course of Crucible. And he can swing it twice on his 1-pip turn, right? Like shots like I took into a solid.
Can he swing it twice all the time?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tar lets him do it all the time.
I mean, the thing is, like,
yeah,
if you don't have charge, it's sometimes really hard to do that.
Oh yeah, sure. You have to already be there. Like something ran into Yoda, and you're like, okay.
I mean, you probably only swing the saber against Dark Troopers.
And
even then, that's going to be situational based on where they're at.
I swung it into Grievous.
I was gonna say, if you have to fight,
we're talking about real units, Mike. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, but the only reason I swung it into Grievous was because Grievous came to me and based me. Like, I didn't go to him.
He wanted that little short lightsaber for his collection.
Yeah,
obviously, didn't go his way, I guess.
But like, that's the thing. Like, you just don't need to do that. And like, oftentimes, like, just guidancing something with Relentless on it is like 10 times better than swinging Yoda's lightsaber or trying 100%. To take it's taking a second arc shot is way better than doing anything Yoda could do with his attack profile, most of the time. Anyways, I don't mean to like sing the praises to the list too much, but I do think that moving forward, like, from what I am gathering, a lot of people are switching to Yoda, and like, you need to have a plan for how to deal with that list moving forward.
Agreed.
So do we think draws are like what happened at Crucible as far as the draw thing was like, okay, like, how are you guys feeling?
I don't think there was any like ill. I think that like Austin is, I've watched Austin play. Austin's a very competitive player, and like, it did not benefit him to engage in the same can be said for Tyler, his opponent. And it just so happened that they got paired up twice in a row and, basically did the same thing. It was like, I think at the end of the first game, like, they had each killed like 2 models or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to qualify my answer of, I don't think draws are okay because we don't have a ruling.
That's
if we had a ruling of if X then Y, I think they're totally fine. Intentional draws are a thing in like literally any kind of competition, from sport to shooting to tabletop gaming.
Yeah,
that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We just need to know what happens when they happen, and then I think that solves the issue. Like, I think Jordan handled it very well. He was very clear with both players from the outset. This is what's going to happen when you drew, or if and when you draw. That's fantastic. I don't necessarily think that like a die roll is the best way to solve it. But I think it is a great decision that he made a decision and let both players know before the game began. So that's public knowledge. That's totally fine. Like I said, I would have preferred to see like record or SOS determine it. But like, that's just personal preference. And as long as the players know before the game begins, there's no issue with that. But that's why I just think that draws are a problem until we get an if X then Y. And then they're fine. Then it's just like literally any other competition across the globe.
Yep. I think that's fair. Because the main thing, we haven't like talked about this directly, is that like, knowing what the status of like who wins in a draw situation in an elims game, like, it determines who's more aggressive, right?
Yes.
It's like old blue and red, which inherently is very fundamental to how the rest of the game is going to go.
Yeah. There's a lot of situations in Legion that are set up to tie that do not happen because Legion has a very casual community that does not frequently want to sit there for 6 turns.
Right.
I'm not saying that Legion is a casual game. I'm saying a lot of Legion players do not want to sit there for 3 hours at a table and not do anything. And we've seen that from the lowest levels of play to the highest levels of play. And now that we have an option of that being a thing, there just needs to be an answer, because the game is not, the objectives are not designed for ties in mind. And now we can tie. So let's fix it. Takes 1 line in an RRG or a competitive guideline or whatever they call it these days.
Galactic Conquest.
Yeah, it takes
document.
1 line in a Galactic Conquest document to make that just a perfect situation.
Agree.
That's fair.
Well,
I expect DMs from that one, but we'll see.
you asked for it.
I did.
Direct your comments to Mike Syrylo, please.
Not me.
Yeah, other Mike.
I don't want them.
No.
This is what I'm here. I'm just here to guest on your show and say things that I shouldn't.
Yeah, this is fine. We're having this is great. Yeah, I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
Congrats on winning Crucible, Mike Berry. Better luck next time, Mike Syrylo.
Yeah,
It's all right.
always the bridesmaid. It's fine.
You'll get it one day.
No, it was exciting. That was a chance for both of us to win our first convention.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
I didn't realize that Mike Berry hadn't won one yet.
I didn't either until we were talking about
I
it.
didn't realize that.
There's been a lot of top 8s and top 4s and top 2s, and you know. In fairness, I've made the finals at LVO, the finals at Richmond. This year, I lost the LVO finals. I just conceded the Richmond finals because I didn't want to play against Star Troopers.
Fair.
It's like, I'm good. Whatever. So that one's on me. But yeah, it was good that we faded each other until the finals. I was happy about that.
You were happy about it. I was very public for like 72 hours before we played that you were the last list I wanted to play against.
Well, and I was the last list you got.
Right, but you have to you can't avoid it forever.
For sure.
Yeah,
well, so I can if it loses. And that's what I was banking on, but unfortunately it came up red and I bet black.
I mean, if you think those were your odds,
it's a little lower,
Yeah, as far as I mean, I definitely I don't know. We'll see what happens at PAX. I'm planning on bringing something very similar. Lookout World. I think that list is like pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, I have a test game tomorrow morning, and I have a little twist that I'm excited to try for it.
Ooh, little twist, huh?
Yeah, a little twist.
Okay, all right. It's definitely not the most optimal for configuration of it yet. I don't know what it is.
I think we're probably thinking of like the same 2 pieces that you can swap around. That I'm excited to swap a couple of those and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm not going to claim to have like found the end all be all version of a list. I generally don't find the end all be all versions. I leave the tweaking up to other people.
You open the door for somebody else to run through.
I generally can't play a list to the point where like that many times to like figure out the most optimal configuration, and like I don't have that sort of patience.
You don't want 37 Krennic boss reps?
No, I don't. Absolutely not.
No one does. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
No. Thank you both for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. I was excited that I got to spend the weekend with you guys, and then excited we got to follow it up with this. So
yeah,
we have fun times in the airport.
Yeah, we all it was great. I had to sit next to somebody on the plane. I hated that.
Yeah, you said they were very rude.
They were very rude.
No.
He like tried to fit like his carry-on under the seat. It's like, bro, it ain't gonna fit. And he's like, well, the overhead's full. Go find another overhead.
Yeah.
Like, you can't put that there.
I mean, I put my carry-on under the seat. Like I carry my army in a carry-on, but it fits
Your
under the
carry-on's
seat.
small,
Right, it
though.
fits. Yeah.
It's like one of those old GW cases, and
Mhm.
it like slides in there pretty well. I'm also short, so I don't need the leg room.
That's
I don't
my
have that luxury there.
Yeah.
my battle phone bag is like exactly big enough to be a personal item, like for American Airlines, because their personal item size is like a little bit bigger than other airlines. So it's like it fits right under the seat, which is like perfect.
Speaking of airlines, thank you, Jordan, for getting both Mike and I on the watch list.
We're not on a watch list, but we did get stopped.
We did get stopped,
and they definitely were looking for our best car trophy.
They were like, "Where's the best car?"
Yeah.
We were watching it as the bag went through, and I saw like half the bag light up red, and I was like, "Oh, here we go."
Oh no. Yeah, no, that's for sure. It turns out large chunks of metal set things off, and what I assume is partially metal detectors. Imagine that.
Adds up.
Yeah.
That's it. I think we're done. I think we're
All
done.
right. Cool. Cool.
We'll talk to you guys in a couple weeks. Thanks for listening, as always.
Yeah.